Ethan was a workaholic. When he mentioned that a client had reached out, I knew exactly what he meant. I even reminded him that work came first and told him to head back quickly without worrying about me. But when I hobbled downstairs to pay the hospital bill, dragging my injured leg behind me, and saw the photo that Sophia posted, my stomach sank. There, Ethan was kneeling beside her, applying ointment to her scraped knee. The caption read, "Who's the little dummy who managed to trip and scrape her leg just walking?" Ethan had teased me endlessly about it. I felt my throat tighten instantly, and anger welled up inside me. We fought, and it was one of those fights where nothing got resolved. He was clearly irritated with me. "You get upset so easily," he said. "If I'd told you the truth, would you have been able to rest and heal properly?" That night, despite sending him message after message, he never replied. I kept waking up from the pain after surgery. I'm sensitive to anesthesia. And when I finally came out of the operating room, there was no one there for me. A kind nurse helped me down the stairs, and yet still no reply from Ethan. I had to deal with everything on my own: work, errands, paying bills, picking up medication. The nurse, probably feeling sorry for me, helped with most of the running around. On the day I was discharged, Ethan finally messaged, "I'm coming to get you." I knew exactly what he meant. He wanted to move past whatever had happened, like we always did. He hated arguments. Every time I confronted him about something involving Sophia, he'd go quiet for a while. And then, when he felt it was time to move on, he'd message me, as if nothing had happened. By then, my anger would have subsided, and he would regain control. Sometimes it lasted for 3 days. Other times, 2 weeks. In the past, I would have been glad he was finally making time for me. But this time, I felt nothing. These past few days alone had forced me to calm down. I replied simply, "No need. I've already finished the discharge paperwork." He texted back right away. "Then I'll come pick you up." "It's okay. I'll take a taxi. I'm already on my way. Just wait. I'll be there in 30 minutes. 30 minutes passed. No sign of his car. It was already dark, 9:30 p.m., and still no message from him. I didn't ask. I waited another 10 minutes. Still nothing. So I opened the ride app and booked a car. I got home around 10:30 p.m. The driver saw that I was on crutches and kindly helped me all the way up to the 5th floor. The hallway light was out, and there were no security cameras. So I kept my best friend on a video call the whole time. The driver didn't seem to mind, and once we reached my door, he left. Still no message from Ethan. I didn't question him before walking inside. I tipped the driver, tidied up a little, and collapsed on the couch. Then I saw Sophia's latest Instagram update. Another photo of that all-too-familiar silhouette, Ethan tending to her wound again. The caption, "He just left and I immediately fell again. How clumsy can I be? He was scolding me while wrapping my ankle. Too funny." When I first found out that Ethan had a lifelong female best friend, I was honestly uncomfortable. Every time I saw their little interactions, it hurt, but I couldn't help watching them closely. To my surprise, she had even followed me on Instagram. Later, I found out Ethan had asked her to. He said, "I'm always busy with work and Amelia's alone in San Francisco with barely any friends. If she ever needs help, maybe you could be there." I wasn't really into Instagram, but after that, I started checking it all the time. Then I'd see the flirty, cozy posts between her and Ethan and end up fighting with him about them. In the past, I probably would have been furious by now, calling Ethan to demand an explanation. But now I just tapped the heart button and commented, "A little dummy needs a big hero. You two should be together." Sarah called. I picked up. "I put in a request for you. We're bumping your salary to $1.3 million a year. How's that sound?" Our company had been expanding into a new market. The office in Los Angeles desperately needed a new director, and they'd requested me specifically, but I had always turned it down, saying it was too far from home. Sarah continued, "I also got you a special leave arrangement. Every 5 months you get half a month off so you can still come back to visit your boyfriend. Sound good?" It turns. Out Sarah had always known it wasn't about the distance from home, it was about the distance from Ethan. I smiled. No need for leave, Sarah. I don't need it. When do I leave? She paused, and then her voice turned excited. End of this month. You better not back out. I'll start the HR handover tomorrow. I opened my laptop to handle some backlog from work. I didn't even hear the door open when I looked up, and there Ethan was standing there with a slight frown on his face. Why didn't you answer your phone? He asked. I checked my phone in a rush. Several missed calls. Around midnight, I went to the hospital to pick you up. You weren't there. He said it, clearly frustrated. Oh, really? I sounded genuinely surprised. Sorry, I didn't think you'd come tonight, so I took a taxi home. He looked at me as if he hadn't heard me right. In the past, even if he was late, I would always call at least to ask. Then we'd fight because I dared accuse him, and he'd freeze me out. I never just quietly went about my business without saying a word. He sighed. Actually, Sophia fell again. Her bones are fragile. Even a small fall can be serious. I couldn't just leave her there. I cut him off before he could finish. Calm, I said, almost indifferent. He blinked, unsure if he heard me right. I looked up from my laptop as if I hadn't caught what he just said. His frown deepened. You're not mad? I smiled. You two are close. I know that. It's fine. Ethan seemed stunned, not expecting me to react so calmly. The fight had always been one-sided before, but this time, something inside me had shifted. I wasn't angry anymore, and that was what seemed to trouble him the most. He stepped closer, his expression softening. I messed up, Amelia, he said, his voice low. Let me be the one to make things right this time. Can we just move on? I tilted my head, letting out a soft chuckle. It's really okay. No need to make it sound so dramatic. For the first time in a long while, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. Ethan was taken aback, his eyes widening slightly. He seemed lost for words. The apology was new, but there was no spark left in me to accept it. His attempt to fix things didn't feel like the right move anymore. He let out a long sigh and sat down next to me on the couch, a heavy silence hanging in the air. Are you sure you're not upset? He asked, his voice quiet but insistent. I smiled, my gaze fixed on the screen of my laptop. Honestly, I stopped caring a while ago. That stopped him in his tracks. Ethan always had a way of controlling the situation, of making it feel like everything was under his command. But now, with me indifferent, the balance had shifted. His attempt to take charge wasn't working anymore. Ethan's face fell for a moment, a deep frustration flashing in his eyes. I know I messed up, he muttered, but don't shut me out like this, okay? I glanced up from my laptop and met his gaze, the tiredness in his eyes apparent. It's not about shutting you out, Ethan. It's just, I'm done fighting. I can't keep doing this. He seemed to hesitate. Then his hand reached out toward me, gently brushing against mine. It felt strange, the warmth of his touch no longer evoking the same feelings it once had. Amelia, please. His voice trailed off and he looked at me like he was waiting for something to change, as though the old dynamic between us could somehow be revived. But I wasn't the same person I had been. Something had broken inside me, and no amount of apologies could mend it. I'm not mad, I said softly, trying to sound more composed than I actually felt. It's just not the same anymore. Ethan sat back, his fingers gripping the arm of the couch as he processed my words. There was a mixture of hurt and confusion in his eyes, but more than that, there was a deep, quiet regret. For the first time, I saw it clearly, but I didn't respond. I didn't need to. My heart had already let go, and I wasn't going to beg for it back. He took a deep breath and finally spoke. Can I at least take care of you? You shouldn't be dealing with everything on your own. You're still recovering. I shook my head. I'm fine. I don't need help right now. Ethan looked at me for a long moment before standing up, his eyes lingering on mine. He opened his mouth to say something, but then stopped. It was as if he was searching for the right words, trying to find a way to fix things. But there was nothing to fix anymore. It was done. "I'll be back later," he said, his voice tight, before turning to leave the apartment. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The door clicked shut behind him, and I finally allowed myself to breathe. The emptiness that had been building inside me over the last few days began to dissipate. I wasn't sure what was next, but I knew one thing: I wasn't going to wait for Ethan anymore. The days passed slowly, and the pain in my leg wasn't the only thing weighing on me. I spent my time buried in work, handling projects and paperwork for the new position Sarah had promised me. Los Angeles was now looming on the horizon, and with it, the chance to leave everything behind. Ethan, the constant tension, and the lingering emptiness I had been trying to ignore for so long. I had barely been able to focus on anything other than work since the last time I saw him. Sarah's offer felt like a lifeline, and every day I got closer to accepting it. I had stopped checking my phone for messages from Ethan. I didn't need his empty apologies or attempts to pick up where we left off. My phone buzzed again, a text from him. "I know we haven't talked in a while, but I'm planning on visiting Los Angeles next month. Maybe we can talk then?" I stared at the screen for a long time, unsure of what to feel. In the past, I would have rushed to respond, angry and confused, wanting to ask him why he was suddenly trying to act like he cared. But now, it didn't matter. The words didn't sting anymore. I put the phone down and turned my attention back to my laptop, typing up another report. It was strange how quickly things had changed. At one point, Ethan had been my entire world, but now I barely even registered the empty space he left behind. Later that evening, as I finished up a call with a client, my doorbell rang. I hadn't been expecting anyone, so I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I stood, gingerly walking toward the door, still not used to moving around with crutches. When I opened it, there was Ethan, standing in the doorway, looking as if he didn't quite know how to begin. "Amelia, I came to check on you," he said softly, his gaze falling on the crutches I was using. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. I could tell that he was waiting for me to say something, but I wasn't sure what to say. The truth was, I didn't want him here. I didn't want him to see me like this, vulnerable and alone. And yet, here he was. "You didn't need to," I finally said, my voice calm but distant. "I'm fine." He hesitated, then stepped into the apartment, his eyes searching the space as if he was trying to read the signs. "I'm sorry. About everything, Amelia. I know I hurt you." I glanced at him, my expression neutral. "You don't need to apologize anymore, Ethan. It's over." His eyes flickered with a mix of frustration and confusion. "I know I messed up. I know I wasn't there for you when you needed me, but I still care about you. I just want to fix things." I felt the old, familiar anger start to rise within me, but I quickly suppressed it. There was no point in fighting anymore. We had done this dance too many times before. The apologies, the empty promises, the endless back and forth that never led anywhere. "You can't fix this," I said softly. "There's nothing to fix anymore." His face fell, and he looked like he was about to say something, but I cut him off. "You have to let go, Ethan. We both do." He didn't reply at first. For a moment, I thought he might leave, but instead, he stayed, standing in the doorway, looking lost. "I don't know how to let go of you," he said finally, his voice tinged with desperation. I took a deep breath, letting the silence fill the room. "You have to, Ethan, for both our sakes." With that, I stepped back, leaving the door slightly ajar as I turned back to my work. Ethan didn't move for a long time. I could feel his presence in the room, but I refused to acknowledge it. Eventually, I heard his footsteps retreating, and the door clicked shut behind him. It was over. For real this time. The days after Ethan's visit were a blur. I stayed focused on work and the preparations for my move to Los Angeles. The thought of leaving San Francisco felt oddly freeing, like I was finally untangling myself from all the complications of my past. The deeper I got into my tasks, the more I realized how much better life could be without him, without his distractions and constant need for validation. I had to admit that I wasn't the same person I had been when I first met Ethan. Back then, his every word had been the center of my world, and his approval had meant everything to me. But now, as I prepared to leave, I found myself wondering why I had let him control so much of my life. Maybe it was time for me to take control of my own happiness for once. That evening, as I was finishing up a project, my phone buzzed. It was another message from Ethan. "I miss you, Amelia. I know I've been a fool, but I don't want to lose you." I read the message, then set my phone down without replying. I wasn't angry, but I wasn't going to fall for it again either. The truth was, I had already moved on. I didn't need his apologies or his promises anymore. What I needed was peace. Later that night, I received a call from Sarah. "How's the move going? I'm assuming everything's still on. Track for the end of the month?" I smiled at her optimism. "Yes, I've been handling everything. Just a few final details to wrap up. I'll be ready." She laughed softly. "Good. I'm really happy for you, Amelia. You've worked so hard for this. A fresh start is exactly what you need." Her words echoed in my mind as I hung up the phone. A fresh start. That's exactly what I needed. I realized that in my pursuit of a career and success, I had forgotten how to live for myself. Now, with this new chapter in Los Angeles, I could finally make up for lost time. The next day, I decided to take a break. I called a cab and made my way to the city's waterfront. The crisp breeze and the sound of the waves crashing against the shore helped clear my mind. It felt good to be out of the apartment, to be away from the memories of Ethan that still lingered in the corners of my mind. The fresh air helped me breathe more easily, like I was shaking off the weight of the past. As I sat by the water, a thought crossed my mind. What if I was making a mistake? What if I was running away from something that could still be fixed? But then I remembered how many times I had given him chances, how many times I had tried to convince myself that things would get better if I just waited long enough. It never did, and I wasn't going to keep waiting for someone who didn't appreciate me. I sat there for hours, letting the sound of the waves soothe me, trying to figure out what my next steps would be. But deep down, I already knew. I was going to move on. No more second chances. No more holding on to something that wasn't meant to be. The next day, Ethan messaged me again. "Please, let's talk. I need to see you." This time, I didn't hesitate. I sent him a simple reply. "I'm done, Ethan. It's over. Please. Don't contact me again." I hit send and immediately felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The decision had been made. There was no going back. The end of this chapter had come. It was strange how quickly life began to feel like it was moving forward without Ethan. The emptiness I had once feared was now just a quiet space, one I could fill with new routines and plans. Each day felt like a small victory. I was getting things done, both at work and in my personal life, without the constant interruptions of his texts or his need for attention. Los Angeles was starting to feel like home already, even though I hadn't moved yet. The thought of settling into a new apartment, the excitement of a fresh start, it was all slowly replacing the memories of my life with Ethan. I wasn't sure what to expect when I arrived, but I knew that there was no way I could go back to the way things were. The days blurred into each other as I finalized my plans. I started to make arrangements for the office transition, meeting with my future colleagues and getting a feel for the new team. It felt good to know that I was being recognized for my hard work, not just as Ethan's girlfriend, but as a capable professional in my own right. One evening, after a particularly long day, I collapsed onto my couch, exhausted but satisfied with the progress I had made. As I scrolled through my phone, I saw a message from Sarah. "I've got good news, Amelia. Your new apartment in LA is ready. The movers will come next week. Everything's falling into place." I smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. For once, everything seemed to be going my way. But as I put my phone down, I heard a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. My heart skipped a beat, and for a moment I thought it might be Ethan. The thought that he had somehow tracked me down didn't surprise me anymore. But when I opened the door, I saw someone else standing there, Sophia. Her smile was tight, and her eyes were guarded. "Amelia," she greeted me coolly, "we need to talk." I didn't know what to say. After everything that had happened, I didn't owe her any explanations. But there she was, standing in front of me, her expression unreadable. "About what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. I wasn't angry at her, but I didn't trust her either. "I know you've been hurt by Ethan," she said, her voice steady, "but I need you to understand something. He's not the same person you think he is. I cut her off. "I don't need you to explain Ethan to me, Sophia. I've known him for a long time. I'm not the one who doesn't understand." She hesitated, clearly taken aback by my response. "I get it, okay? But you don't know what he's been through. You don't know how hard it's been for him, not having you around." I crossed my arms. "It's not just about me being around, Sophia. It's about the way he treated me, the way he ignored me when I needed him the most. You don't know what it's like, constantly waiting for someone who never shows up when you need them." Her eyes softened for a moment, but she didn't speak. I wasn't sure if she was finally beginning to understand or if she was just tired of defending him. Either way, I wasn't interested in hearing any more of Ethan's excuses. "I'm done with him," I said firmly, "and I don't owe anyone an explanation for that. It's my decision, and it's final." Sophia looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I understand. I wanted to make sure you knew the whole story." "I don't need to know anymore," I replied, my voice calm but resolute. "I've heard. Enough!" She gave me one last look, then turned to leave. I stood there for a moment, watching her go, feeling a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. She was right about one thing. Ethan wasn't the same person I had once known, but that didn't matter anymore. He wasn't my problem anymore. I closed the door behind me and let out a deep breath. I was done with both of them. It was time to move on, fully and completely, and no one, least of all Sophia, was going to change that. The days following my conversation with Sophia were strangely peaceful. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for a text or a call from Ethan. It felt like I had taken the reins of my own life again, and the weight that had pressed down on me for so long was finally lifting. The move to Los Angeles was fast approaching, and with each passing day, I felt more certain of my decision. I was excited about the us and new opportunities, the new city, and the fresh start that awaited me. I wasn't looking back. One evening, after I had finished another exhausting day of work and preparations for the move, I decided to treat myself. I made a reservation at the Golden Spoon, one of the best restaurants in San Francisco, and planned to enjoy a quiet dinner alone, something I hadn't done in years. As I entered the restaurant, the familiar hum of conversation and clinking glasses filled the air. The waiter led me to my table, a small corner booth by the window where I could watch the city lights twinkle in the distance. Just as I was settling in, I glanced up, and there, across the room, sat Ethan and Sophia. They were laughing, their heads close together, sharing a quiet moment. My heart did a strange flip in my chest, but I quickly reminded myself that I didn't need to care anymore. They weren't my problem. I turned my attention back to the menu, trying to push the images of them from my mind. It wasn't easy, but I focused on the meal ahead. Then, to my surprise, the waiter came back and placed a menu in front of me. "Your companions have arrived," he said, nodding toward the door. I looked up, and to my shock, Ethan was standing there, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. His face softened when he saw me, and for a moment, it was like time had stood still. "I didn't think you'd be here," he said, his voice low and hesitant. "I didn't expect to run into you." I didn't respond immediately. just watching him with a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. The last time I saw him, he had made it clear that he wanted nothing to do with me. Yet here he was, showing up unannounced and with Sophia in tow. Sophia was right behind him, her eyes darting from me to him, clearly unsure of how to act. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then gestured to the seat across from mine. "Would you mind if we join you?" he asked, a polite but strained smile on his face. I paused, the suddenness of the situation catching me off guard. I wasn't sure what I expected, but this wasn't it. I had moved on, or at least I thought I had. I wasn't ready to have them sitting across from me, pretending like everything was normal. But I didn't want to make a scene, so I nodded. "Sure," I said quietly. "Go ahead." Ethan sat down first, and Sophia slid into the seat next to him. There was an awkward silence, and for a moment none of us knew what to say. Ethan's eyes kept flicking between me and Sophia, as if waiting for some kind of sign, some indication that I was ready to forgive him, to go back to the way things were. But that wasn't going to happen. Not now, not ever. I forced a smile and glanced at the menu. "So, what brings you both here?" I asked, my voice calm but distant. Sophia looked at me for a moment, then gave me a small smile. "We've been talking about old times," she said, her voice sweet but with an underlying edge I couldn't quite place. Ethan wanted to reminisce. I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy, but I quickly buried it. I didn't need to be the one to fight for his attention anymore. That was his choice, not mine. Ethan laughed softly, his eyes still focused on me. "Yeah, we've been talking about the good old days," he said, though his voice sounded strained. "I didn't mean to interrupt your evening. I just wanted to say that I miss you. I know I've said it before, but I really do." Sophia leaned in, her voice playful but pointed. "Don't mind us. We've been like this for years," she said, giving me a teasing smile. "We've always been close. You know, that." For a moment, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The audacity, the nerve. I put my fork down and glanced up at them both, my expression calm but my insides in turmoil. "You two are still the same," I said quietly, my voice tinged with an emotion I couldn't quite put into words. "Nothing's changed." Ethan's face fell, and he opened his mouth to respond, but I held up a hand. "You know what? I've heard enough," I said, standing up slowly. "You two enjoy your dinner." Without waiting for another word, I turned and walked away, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't look back, but I could feel their eyes on me, their presence still haunting me even as I walked out of the restaurant. I didn't think about Ethan for the rest of the night, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. The encounter at the Golden Spoon had been unexpected, but it only reinforced what I had already known. Ethan wasn't the person I thought he was. I was moving forward. I was focused on my future, on the new job in Los Angeles, and the life that awaited me there. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for a call or a text. I wasn't hoping that Ethan would show up to fix things. I had finally accepted that I was better off without him. The next few days went by in a blur of work and preparations. The thought of leaving San Francisco behind, of cutting ties with everything that reminded me of Ethan, brought a sense of relief. I was starting to feel like I was really free. But then, one morning, as I was going through the final details for the move, I received a text. It was from Ethan, as usual. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he wrote. "I know things ended badly, but I want you to know that I've been trying to change. I'm not the same person I was before. I just want to talk. Can we meet?" I stared at the message for a long time, my fingers hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to tell him off, to send a sharp reply that made it clear I wasn't interested in hearing anything more. But another part of me wondered if I could ever truly move on without confronting him one last time. For a moment, I hesitated, and then, just as quickly, I made my decision. I wasn't going to go down that road again. I deleted the message without responding. There was no need to drag out the pain any longer. I had made up my mind. I was done with him. A few hours later, I was packing my things when my phone buzzed again. Another text. This time, it was from Sophia. "I know this isn't easy for you, Amelia," she wrote, "but I need you to understand that Ethan really does care about you. He's been a wreck since you left. He's not the person he used to be, and he's trying so hard to change." I scoffed at the message, my fingers trembling as I typed out a response. "I don't care, Sophia," I wrote. "I've heard it all before. I'm done with both of you. Don't contact me again." I sent the message, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction as I hit send. I was finally cutting the last tie that had bound me to them. I spent the rest of the day sorting through my belongings, tossing aside things that reminded me of Ethan. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was just done. It was time for a new chapter, and I wasn't going to let the ghosts of my past hold me back any longer. Later that evening, I received a call from Sarah. "How's everything going?" she asked, her voice warm and reassuring. "Are you all set for the move?" I smiled, the tension in my shoulders easing as I heard her voice. "Yes, everything's ready. I'm leaving San Francisco tomorrow morning." "That's great, Amelia. I'm so proud of you." I felt a lump form in my throat, but I pushed it down. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly at peace. "I'm proud of me too," I said softly. "I'm ready for this." The next morning, I packed up the last of my things and closed the door to my apartment in San Francisco. As I stood there for a moment, taking one last look at the place I had called home for so long, I felt nothing. No regret, no sorrow, just a quiet sense of relief. I had made the right choice. And as the taxi drove me to the airport, I knew that I was leaving behind more than just a city. I was leaving behind a version of myself that no longer fit the person I had become. When I arrived in Los Angeles, everything felt new and full of possibilities. It was a fresh start, and I was ready for it. The first few days in Los Angeles were everything I had, hoped for, and more. The city felt alive, full of energy, and it was easy to get lost in it all. The new job was everything I had worked for, and the team at Tech Innovators HQ welcomed me with open arms. The apartment I'd found was a cozy place to call my own, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I threw myself into my work, determined to make a fresh start. The distractions from my past, from Ethan and Sophia, had no place here. This was my new chapter, and nothing was going to stand in the way of it. But then, a week after I arrived in Los Angeles, I received a message that I wasn't expecting. It was from Ethan, of course. "I don't know where you are right now, Amelia, but I just wanted you to know that I'm thinking of you. I miss you." I sat frozen, staring at the message on my screen. Part of me felt a pang of regret, a tiny thread of longing for the version of him I had once loved, but it was fleeting. The distance between us, both physical and emotional, had helped me realize that the person I had been with wasn't the person I thought I knew. I stared at the screen for a long moment before deleting the message. It was time to let go completely. There was no need to entertain this anymore. The next day, I went to a local cafe to clear my head. I walked in, the rich aroma of coffee filling the air, and ordered my usual black coffee with a splash of almond milk. The cafe was quiet, with only a few customers scattered at tables, but there was a sense of warmth to it that made me feel at home. I found a table by the window and sat down, my laptop open in front of me. As I began to work, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Ethan, it was Sarah. "Guess what?" she texted. "I got a message from Sophia. She says Ethan's been a mess since you left. She told me he's barely been eating or sleeping." I frowned, a mix of emotions swirling inside me. I wasn't sure how I should feel. A part of me wanted to feel sorry for him, but another part felt nothing. I had moved on. He was no longer my problem. I replied to Sarah with a simple message. "I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm done. I can't keep being dragged back into this." Sarah's reply came quickly. "I get it. I just wanted to make sure you knew what was going on, but you're right. It's not your responsibility." I set my phone down and sighed, my gaze drifting to the street outside. There was a time when I would have cared about what Ethan was going through, but that person wasn't me anymore. I had let go of all the old attachments, and with it, all the pain and confusion that had once ruled my life. I spent the rest of the afternoon at the cafe, focusing on work and letting the noise of the world around me fade into the background. I had learned to find peace in solitude, in focusing on the present rather than the past. For the first time in ages, I felt truly at ease. That evening, I went for a walk along the beach, the cool breeze and the sound of the waves crashing against the shore calming me. The lights of the city twinkled in the distance, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for everything I had. I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I had been in Los Angeles for a little over a month now, and I was beginning to feel more like myself every day. My new job was a perfect fit, and I had quickly made new friends in the office. The city felt like a place where I could truly start over, and I was embracing every part of it. But just when I thought I had finally left the past behind, I got an unexpected call. It was from Sophia. "Amelia, I need to talk to you," she said, her voice sounding tense. "It's about Ethan." I wasn't sure what to think. I hadn't spoken to either of them since I'd left San Francisco, and the last thing I wanted was to get dragged back into their drama. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "He's not doing well," she replied. "He's been spiraling. He won't talk to anyone but me, and it's like he's punishing himself for what happened between you two." I felt a twinge of guilt, but I quickly pushed it aside. I had made the right decision. Ethan's problems were not mine to fix. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, my voice firm, "but I've moved on. I can't help him anymore." "I understand," Sophia said, her tone softening, "but I just wanted to let you know. He's really struggling, Amelia. I've never seen him like this." I stayed quiet for a moment, unsure of what to say. Part of me wanted to reach out, to try and fix things for him, but I knew better. I had spent so much time in the past trying to fix him, only to end up hurt and disappointed. I couldn't do it again. "I'm sorry," I finally said, my voice steady. "I hope he finds the help he needs, but I can't be the one to give it to him." Sophia didn't respond right away. There was a long pause, and when she spoke again, it was softer, almost as if she understood. "I get it," she said quietly. "I really do. I just thought you should know." After hanging up, I sat there for a while staring at my phone. A part of me still cared for Ethan, but it was no longer the all-consuming need to fix things. I wasn't responsible for his happiness, and I wasn't going to allow his misery to drag me down anymore. That night, I went to bed feeling strangely calm. I had let go of the last bit of attachment I had left for Ethan. I didn't need to save him. I didn't need to carry the weight of his mistakes. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a walk along the beach. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft golden light over the ocean. It was a beautiful, peaceful morning, and I found myself breathing deeply, letting the salty air fill my lungs. As I walked, I thought about everything I had been through, the heartache, the anger, the disappointment. But now, there was only peace. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. I wasn't bound by the past anymore. I was moving forward and nothing was going to hold me back. I spent the next few months settling into my new life, and with each passing day, the memories of Ethan and everything that had come before them seemed more distant. Los Angeles had become my home, a place where I could finally breathe without the constant weight of the past pressing down on me. I found peace in my routines, in my work, and in the quiet moments I spent alone. But then, one evening, as I sat at my kitchen table, enjoying a quiet dinner after a long day at work, my phone buzzed. I wasn't expecting any messages. I picked it up, glancing at the screen. It was from Sarah. "Amelia, I think you should know. Ethan's been through a lot, but he's getting better. I don't know if you'll ever forgive him, but I think he's truly trying to change." I stared at the message, a strange mixture of emotions flooding through me. For a moment, I thought about calling him, about seeing if he had really changed, about whether there was a part of me that could still care for him. But then I remembered everything I had gone through, the hurt, the tears, the endless attempts to fix something that was never meant to be fixed. I didn't reply to Sarah's message. I didn't need to. Ethan's journey was his own now, and mine was separate from his. It was time to let go of the past completely. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt the weight of everything I had been through slowly slip away. The pain had faded, replaced by a sense of freedom I had never known before. I wasn't bound by anyone else's expectations or mistakes anymore. I was free to be the person I wanted to be. The next morning, I woke up early and decided to take a walk to the beach. The sun was just beginning to rise, and the sky was painted in shades of pink and orange. The waves rolled gently onto the shore, and the sound of the ocean filled my ears. I stood there for a long while, watching the horizon, feeling the salty breeze on my face. And for the first time in a long time, I felt content. I wasn't looking for closure. I didn't need to have the last word. I had found my own peace in letting go, in moving forward, in knowing that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to leave the past behind and embrace the future with open arms. And so, with the sun rising over the ocean and the world around me full of possibilities, I took a deep breath and stepped forward into my new life. Free, at last.